Don't miss out on this resource. I'm Joseph. This is Input English. The Input English channel is all about comprehensible input, the best way to improve your listening comprehension and eventually your speaking ability. Today I'd like to share some cautionary thoughts about some of the subtleties about comprehensible input. I don't want you to miss out on this resource, which can make a big difference in your learning of English. So I've broken this down into two parts. The first part is comprised of 5 things you need to know about a very specific type of comprehensible input. In the second part, I'm going to share 5 pitfalls, the reasons that people fail to take advantage of this wonderful resource. So let's get started. Well, first of all, what am I talking about? I'm talking about stories. If you're familiar with this channel, stories are prominent in the content posted to this channel. There's a reason for that. That is not a random occurrence. It's designed into this channel. So let's start with the 5 things about story learning or story listening that you need to know. First of all, this is not new. This is actually the way people learned languages in antiquity. This is the way children learn languages. This is a big part of comprehensible input. Why? Number 1, stories are entertaining. They're fun. So this feature of stories is essential. If you are trying to learn a language, consuming content for comprehensible input, and that content is not interesting, not fun, not entertaining, then you will fail because a normal person will discard it. It will be left by the wayside. So the entertaining and fun nature of stories help keep our imagination engaged with the content. It's essential that stories be entertaining. Number 2, stories build vocabulary. Stories are told in normal language, so stories contain all the elements of day-to-day language. If your mind gets fixed on the story, and if your intention is to understand the story, the language that carries the story will be absorbed. There's no way to stop it. You will acquire the language contained in that story. Now, it may take more than one time through that content. When I use stories to learn Spanish, I typically watch those videos or listen to the stories on audio only 5 times or more. I found that each time I listened to or watched the content, I got more out of it. There's a lot of depth in the language of stories. One time through a story is not typically enough. Now, that's not me bossing you around. That's my attempt to share my strategy for learning language successfully with story listening. I suppose I should define a term. Story listening could just be considered a descriptive term, but it's also a technical term in language learning, and it was coined by Benico Mason. Benico Mason was a colleague of Dr. Krashen. She returned to Japan and taught languages in Japan, and she coined the term story listening. She put a great deal of emphasis on absorbing stories and thereby absorbing the language. There's a related term, story learning, and if you search that online, you'll probably run into Ollie Richards. Ollie Richards is a very enthusiastic, knowledgeable polyglot, and he produces a lot of content in various languages to help people acquire languages. He is a big proponent of comprehensible input. A lot of his content created by his efforts is in the form of reading material. So instead of story listening, he talks about story learning. Number 3, listening to stories gives us the language on full display. We get the syntax, we get the grammar, we get the pronunciation, we get everything we need except for how to read it and write it. If our goal is to become proficient in a language, listening is fantastic to meet that goal. When we listen to stories, we get the grammar, but we don't study grammar rules. We develop an intuitive sense of how the language is supposed to sound, and then when we produce the language, our sound will be more similar to native speech. Listening to stories does not reinforce translation in one's head. If you're focused on the story and you're understanding the story, your brain doesn't have time to translate. So you just fixate on the story and run with it. This is a great way to prevent translation in your head. We don't want to translate our new language, English, through our native language. That doesn't work. Number 4, well-told stories provide a sense of immersion. I said that carefully. I'm actually not trying to create true immersion, which would require you to produce a lot of language that you don't know yet on day one. My point is, if the story is well told, you get a sensation of immersion. You also get a lot of cultural references. Well-done stories give you a picture of the culture of the country or region in which that story takes place. Number 5, the role of pictures, illustrations, and drawings used while telling stories. Online and on YouTube, there are a lot of stories being told for comprehensible input. Some of them include the presenter drawing stick figures, diagrams, and illustrations, or sometimes they just insert an image that they have obtained from a source. When this is well done, these illustrations and drawings can help true beginners get a grip on the language being presented. Well-done illustrations can make the content more comprehensible. However, in certain settings, illustrations play no role. Once a person's level of comprehension has gotten high enough, there's no need for drawings. When I tell a story about Bobby and his family, his dog Oscar, I don't draw stick figures because the content I'm creating is intermediate content. Everybody watching these videos about Bobby know what a boy is. They know what a dog is. They know what I'm talking about when I say mother, father, sister, tree. Anything that you could draw to make the content more understandable is actually already known by anyone watching my videos. The Input English channel has no absolute beginner videos, and there's a reason for that. There are millions of people around the world who have studied English in school. People have a vocabulary. People already know a lot of words. People have already studied a lot of grammar, but they need to be able to understand the English language better. They have trouble with native content, and they're not comfortable speaking. They want to be able to speak English to produce the language. So the Input English channel serves that population. Hundreds of millions of people need content like this. There are other resources that include absolute beginner material for English. If you need recommendations about that, leave me a message in the comments section and I'll let you in on several sources that may be quite useful to you. So why don't I put up illustrations and stick figures anyway? It can't hurt, right? It can. If I were to busy myself making illustrations, drawing stick figures, it would slow down the storytelling. It would decrease my ability to produce content, and it would be quite distracting for all the people who already understand those words. More complex or abstract concepts defy our ability to illustrate with simple drawings. When I'm talking about ideas, I just speak clearly and expect that the context will help people develop the vocabulary. So those are 5 points about why story listening is a great way to spend your time in comprehensible input. So what are the pitfalls? How could we fail to take advantage of this wonderful resource, stories? Really, all the forms of comprehensible input available to you could share some or all of these pitfalls. They are particularly applicable to stories. Number one, there is no big marketing effort to promote stories online. At this point, I'm aware of no corporations promoting comprehensible input and pumping resources into the creation of comprehensible input. I see this very much as a grassroots operation that is developing worldwide. Owing to the lack of promotion and marketing, it is easy for people to not even be aware of comprehensible input. The term is used online, but it's not always well defined, and it's not always accurately used. It would be easy for someone to misunderstand comprehensible input as some sort of gimmick or slogan that doesn't do anything, and then they just move on. It is possible for people to miss out by not recognizing the value of this resource. Number two, we have a tendency to compare learning methods with what we did in school. In school, we were given new material. We had to memorize it. We had to commit it to short-term memory. And then we repeated drills and testing so that we could hopefully push some of that knowledge into long-term memory. The goals of most educational systems are reflected in their dependency on short-term test performance to monitor progress. It is certainly possible to perform well on a test, but not really learn the material. In school, we got a sense of progress because of the cadence of the new material, the learning, the testing, and then moving on. And this is in stark contrast to what we see with listening to stories. When you listen to a story and compare it to what you did in school, it's tempting to think in the story there's really nothing happening there. There's no learning happening. So our comparison of comprehensible input to our experiences in school can lead us astray. Number three, little or no cost. Comprehensible input is available to you either at little cost or at no cost. That sounds like a good thing, right? It doesn't cost you anything. Certainly, none of the videos on the Input English channel are associated with any fees being charged to you. So that's a great thing that you're not having to pay for this content. Well, the trouble with that, psychologically, is if we don't pay for something, we frequently don't value it. In the 21st century, Something that's very cheap or free is frequently not valued by society. We just don't think much of it. If we don't value it, then the tendency is to not use it. And with comprehensible input, if you don't use the content, you don't absorb the language. No results. So the lack of expense associated with using comprehensible input is a double-edged sword. It makes it more available to more people, but it gives us the opportunity to discount it in our mind as not being of any use. Number 4, no immediate gratification in terms of language learning milestones. In school, when I learned how to conjugate a new verb, I could check that off. I had learned it. I could see progress. Yesterday I didn't know the conjugation of that word, and today I do. That's clear, obvious progress. When you listen to stories for comprehensible input, the progress is very subtle. It's very slow. It's very gradual. And so if you listen to a story, at the completion of that story, you don't have a specific sensation of any progress made for your time spent. The progress is too subtle. I think this explains the success of videos online that deal with very specific grammar problems. People look at something like a phrasal verb and they want to conquer it. So they go to a video that gives you a list of 50 phrasal verbs, and then you set about your task of memorizing all those elements of that list. In contrast, if you learn phrasal verbs in stories, they're all in context, they're learned over a period of hundreds of hours, but the depth of your learning of those terms is very good. I am certain that there are a lot of people who give comprehensible input a try. They watch some videos, listen to some stories, and then after putting in 2 or 3 hours in that endeavor, think to themselves, well, I can't tell that it did anything, and then they move on. They go do something else. I think this is where the subtlety of comprehensible input can be a problem. If people are not aware of the nature of comprehensible input, they might not value it long enough to see any benefit. And number 5, comprehensible input listening to stories can suffer as we compare it to all the stories we have heard in life. We were told stories since we were tiny children. And looking back at our experience listening to stories, it's not possible for us to detect the amount of language we absorbed as we listened to all those stories. I think that a lot of societies don't put enough value on storytelling and listening to stories as a resource for learning a lot. As I put this episode together, I thought back to my journey learning Spanish and tried to get a picture of how important story listening was to my progress in Spanish. What I concluded is that stories were key. They were the number one thing that helped me build my level in Spanish. They delivered the goods. They delivered huge shipments of vocabulary, large quantities of grammar. And of course, when you're listening to a native speaker, you get the pronunciation, you get the sound of the language. So for me, my best resource by far learning Spanish was the stories. I share all this hoping that you won't miss out on this powerful tool. I invite comments below, and if you like videos like this, be sure to click on this one next. See you soon.